Hey everyone, welcome to Jabroni Sunday Snack Count. This week we are joined with the Hub. He's had me on his channel before, a really cool guy, big Giants fan. You want to introduce yourself?
What's up, everybody? It is your boy, the Hub, no name Kush, whatever you want to call me, over here on Sunday Snapcam with Big Blue Jabroni. Like he said, I had him on the channel before, way back, like what it's been maybe 2 months now, even though it doesn't seem that long, but it was a while ago. Of course, he invited me on, had to come on, man. Glad to be here.
Thanks again for having you on, man. Do you want to start off with what we were basically just talking about? The idea of the NFL trying to get their teams to be in a bubble and maybe some of the difficulties of other teams not having this. Like we were saying, the Saints just put their team in a hotel. They're kind of in a bubble. Do you expect more teams to do that or at least try to?
Well, I don't know. To be honest, to answer that specific question, if I expect them to do it, if I were to be 100% honest, no, I don't expect them to do it. I really don't think organizations and teams are going to do anything unless the NFL like orders them to do it, because that's kind of how it's been throughout this entire offseason. So what I would hope is that the NFL does put out some type of order sounds like the wrong word, but some type of statement or something, or they communicate with each organization and they're like, all right, listen, we're going to basically have each team have their own bubble, and that way it helps out when teams are traveling also, because you're going to be traveling from bubble to bubble, so it should be safe, right? Like, look at MetLife, which is something we talked about also on the Giants official YouTube channel. Joe Judge gave an official tour of basically the converted MetLife Stadium. They took every single room in the stadium and turned it into a football operated, football related operation type thing. Like, rooms that were like VIP clubhouses for viewers are now coaching staff rooms, because they're spacing everything out. They're using as much space as they can. They're taking all the health precautions. They're doing all types of tests. Like, the players are even wearing like basically tracking devices to make sure they're staying a good amount of distance apart and whatnot. Like, MetLife is doing everything in their power to make it so that they, on their end, they're preventing any type of infection or anything like that. And essentially, and Judd said this, if there's anything that goes wrong health wise, it will be on the players' end of what they're doing outside of MetLife. So to just prevent that all together, I think it's literally just one step away from making the bubble. Just make it so that the players don't leave anywhere except from a hotel room, which is going to be closest to MetLife, and to and from MetLife and that hotel room for the entirety of the season. I mean, basketball is doing pretty well so far. You mentioned that the NFL, the NHL, I think they might be doing it as well. The only team that isn't doing it, or the only league that isn't doing it, is having problems, and that's the MLB. So why not let the NFL, NFL do it, man? And the way it's going to work is it's going to have to be every team, because one bubble for 32 teams is not going to work.
Yeah, absolutely. You just don't have like the real estate. I would hope you could get these guys to buy in and want to stay in there. Quick shout out to OGR Sports and Alex Sports for joining. Thank you guys for coming out. But I think you could definitely get the guys to stay, because all you really need are the leaders of the team to be like, okay, I'm willing to stay here. I'm going to do it. And then I think guys might be a little bit more willing to fall in line. But I think that we're only 30-something days away from kickoff, and this is like what we're talking about of what's something they should do. Is
How many days away are we? The kickoff
30,
is
31.
because it opens on a Thursday night.
Yeah, because Houston plays Kansas City to start
Oh
the season.
yeah. I keep thinking the 14th, because that's when the Giants open up, the 14th. But
Oh, yeah.
yeah, we are just 31 days away from kickoff, and padded practices hasn't even started yet for teams in training camp. Think about that.
Yeah, that's absolutely insane. The only thing, I mean, obviously, it's very scary as a Giants fan. Whole new offense, whole new defense, whole new coaching staff. Obviously, go through all the coaching changes. And you only get 16 real practices with these guys. That's obviously definitely worrisome, especially when you're going against a defense who's basically all there from last year and was a top-tier defense. But the only thing I do think that
What in the world? I think I'm getting a phone call, man. You can still hear me though, right?
I still hear you.
Oh man, just excuse me for 1 second. I can't believe I'm getting a phone call right now.
No problem. But the only thing that's going to help us with that is if you've only had 16 padded practices for any of these teams, and in the first week with no preseason games, the first thing you're going to have to do is chase Saquon Barkley around and try and tackle him in open space. I think that's something that could actually work to our benefit, but strictly kind of only for that guy. I'm a little worrisome about the offensive line not having nearly enough time, not really being able to get the progression of the routes for Daniel Jones, learning a whole new offense, learning all the new cadence, learning all the new verbiage. You see, even Tom Brady was talking about that, how he was struggling with a little bit in Tampa.
I'm back, big Woodrow. My bad, bro. For context, like today is my mom's birthday, so I still got people calling in to wish her happy birthday, and I use my phone as my camera. But at least you guys could still hear me.
Oh, no problem, man. Happy birthday to your mom.
Thank you, man. So like whenever I don't expect it to be a long phone call. My face should be back soon, but we can still talk.
We're all dying to see it again.
You want to see this thing and it's gonna break your computer screen, man.
Oh yeah. I guess we can get to the elephant in the room, the biggest Giants news of the week.
Well, I mean, before that, we could continue on unless you finish it up with the chat, the whole NFL bubble thing and whatnot.
Oh, we can go right ahead. Keep going with that. I didn't know if you were able to still hear me or not.
No, because I left. You could just repeat what you were saying.
I just feel like if you can get a lot of the veterans and some of the leaders on the team to agree to the team bubble, it would be a little bit easier to get these guys to all kind of fill in. But with only 30 days left, and now all of a sudden it would feel like a scramble for every team to create their own bubble, unless they're going to do it on their own. Because I don't think the NFL is going to be able to force anything on them at this point.
That's actually a pretty good point that you bring up with the time constraint. I'm glad you brought that up because that slipped my mind. Because like we always bring up the time constraints in terms of practices and whatnot, and in terms of the fact that they definitely don't have enough time to like get ready physically and mentally for the NFL. But we don't know if every single team has done what the Giants and the Saints have done with their stadiums in terms of using as much real estate as they can to abide by the distancing rules. And then I'll assume every team sanitary-wise has abided to those rules. But distancing, you bring up a pretty good point there. And if that's the case, then it's going to be hard to do that within the time constraints that they have of basically, like you said, 30 days, in addition to shifting everything to basically a hotel room. So that's a pretty good point you brought up there. You can still hear me?
There you go. You're back.
But you heard what I said, though, right?
Yeah. You're coming in clear.
All right. So so that's really kind of like my thing on that. If teams haven't really converted their facilities into what it needs to be, or at least up to standard, then that, in addition to rounding up every player, would be kind of a hassle. But if every team has, then it should not be too much, I think, to just get the players into a hotel room. Now, booking a hotel for basically what, 6 months straight. Now that's something else. In fact, I don't know how the NBA did it.
Well, I think the biggest hurdle is getting the players to agree, to be like, all of a sudden you can't see your friends and family and your kids. And
the thing is, I think it's going to be not necessarily easy for them, but I don't think it's going to be hard because they're already here. They opted into the season, so to speak. And I think they know it's a possibility that something like this could happen. They're just like us. They look at other sports releases. I think they definitely know that possibility is there. And if they truly want to play, I don't think it would be a hard decision, really. But that's just me.
I would hope it would be that easy, but I would definitely worry that guys are not going to be wanting to do it unless they're going to get some extra benefits, or they want something out of it. They're not just going to be like, okay, let's pack up shop and get out of here.
Shout out to Mr. Mini Guy in the chat.
He says,
yo, not of you tuning in. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I feel like that's a little bit of a harsh view on the players. Like, I know we all have, especially in recent years, and I can't blame anybody because I hate the diva players as well. You look at guys like Antonio Brown and whatnot, and really the faces of the league, they haven't done themselves any favors by painting themselves a picture of being a player that wants something in return for their performance. Like, that's literally what every face of the league right now looks like. But kind of going back to what we were also talking about earlier, like 90% of the league is not those guys. 90% of the league are role players that are just, they have a job. Like, they're happy to have a job. So in that sense, I think like a majority of them would be easily convinced. What do you think?
I just feel like you're giving away a lot. I mean, a lot of these guys they do stuff for their family. They gotta I know these guys are at work a lot and they probably lock themselves in the room, watch tape and all that, but they have roles in their household. They have things that they do, like to sacrifice and give that all up. They're going to want something in return.
Look at the NBA. They didn't want anything in return, or the NHL. The same thing could be said for them. And the NBA and NHL respectively are way more player-driven leagues than the NFL is. The NFL is still at this point, maybe in the future becomes a player-driven league like the NBA is, but at this point, the NFL is still very much an organization-driven league.
Yeah, so I don't know. I just feel I hope they would all agree to it, but I think there would definitely be a long negotiation progress and not enough time to get it solved now. I think the only best chance you have are teams to committing to their own bubble, which I would hope to see. But
Yeah, that's what I thought that is what we were saying here.
Yeah.
I thought that is what we were saying. Teams committed to their own bubble. I don't mean like a whole big bubble, but like that way they're still technically like very close to their family. It's not the same thing as being there, but it's like I'm looking at it and I'm like, they're legitimately just one step away from being in the legit bubble because you still have to be extremely careful outside of the field and outside of MetLife, even with your own family. Like, look at what Blake Martinez said. I don't know if you got to see Blake Martinez's interview. He's like, he really only spends about an hour a day with his family because, he's trying to be so careful and he's trying to use as much time as he can because of the limited time to prepare for the season. He only spends about an hour or so with his family already.
Well, I don't think most of the players in the league are doing that right now. I mean, you see what happens going on with like the Cowboys. They had that big party. A bunch of guys already popped hot for them. As I see a Cowboys fan jump into the chat.
Shout out to Valix Prime Sports.
It's going to be tough because other states have other guidelines, but I think most of these teams now seeing what the other sports are going to go, okay, our only chance of surviving this is if we kind of quarantine ourselves. But it looks like the Giants are doing a good job of that so well. I hope the rest of the league is also doing just as good of a job, and we'll see.
What do you think about, have you seen like the recent interviews that they put up on the Giants YouTube channel?
Oh, yeah, they had Leonard Williams, Blake Martinez, they had Saquon, and Daniel Jones.
I think they had Sterling Shepard as well in there.
I haven't seen that one yet.
And Dalvin Tomlinson.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Of the ones you've seen, which one was your favorite so far? Because, something about it is, I guess it's because, we all know the current situation is just a different feel to it. And, all the questions are geared differently towards the players. Did you have any favorite interview out of all of them?
Probably the Saquon one, because I thought he handled – there was a couple – because he's the biggest star, and, he's the one you're going to get a quote out of other than the quarterback who gave you just perfect quarterback answers kind of through the whole thing.
He was, prepared for everything, bro.
Yeah. But when they asked Saquon, hey, are you going to opt out? He, chuckled for a second and then was like, no, I'm not going to opt out. And then the guy tried to attack him like, oh, are you blaming the other guys who are opting out? Or what do you feel about – and he was like, whoa, hold on. I'm not opting out. That's all I meant by it. Basically, next question. It comes from the top. You saw the way Joe Judge handles these types of questions about – or when they asked him about DeAndre Baker.
I was about to bring that up. I was surprised. He looked unprepared for the DeAndre Baker question. He was obviously flustered. I don't think anybody, even the media guys, and, usually they screen questions and whatnot. I don't think anybody was prepared for that. And with the response that he gave, compared to, say, the question you say with the opting out, which definitely has, it looks like Judge talked to the team about that and how to handle that type of question. The way Saquon answered the DeAndre Baker question and the way he behaved around it, the feeling he gave off, to me, it seemed like that maybe the coaches haven't spoken to the team yet about how to address those questions. What do you think?
I thought they handled it pretty well. They were not really dwelling on it or giving a full answer. They were kind of just like, hey, we're here to play football. You can ask me about the practices and things like that. But anything off the field, I feel like when any of the questions are coaches, it gets shut down fairly quickly. But not in a rude condescending way where you feel like the New York media is now going to try and beat up on them about it. They kind of just, I feel like they take a good job of controlling the interview to go in the direction they want.
Yeah, exactly. That's definitely something that I saw there as well. Bob Clausen in the house. What's up, man?
NBA and NHL are in the bubble for the playoffs, not an entire season. Yes.
Well, they're in it for what, the 8-game season continuation, which is 2 or 3 weeks, plus the playoffs. So how long is the NBA playoffs? I think maybe a month. Yeah, it's a month and a half.
Yeah.
So total at most maybe 2.5 months. I agree with you there. It's definitely a shorter time than say the NFL season, which is 4 months. That's twice the amount of time, but it's still doable. I think it's still very much doable.
I hope everyone is safe, and if anyone who does get it, you don't see what happens with the Cardinals or the Marlins, and you see it spread as quickly as you do. Because
I will say, man, the MLB has been crazy. I don't know do you think the reason it's spreading is because they haven't taken that bubble approach, or is it because maybe their players aren't being too careful?
I think it's definitely a combination of the both, but players being the big thing with happening with St. Louis was they went to a casino.
That's just stupid. That's just stupid decision making.
Yeah. Well, if you see Daniel Jones in a casino or at a crowded bar right now, you know that they're going to call him out on it. You'd get photos of it. It would be on his back.
Bro, Joe Judge will probably like not starting week 1 or something.
Yeah, I
Like,
just feel like NFL players are such star. I mean, if you're a backup lineman, I wouldn't recognize you in a bar or whatever. But I feel like if any of these big names did anything like that, you would get called out on it immediately. Like Zeke was at that thing, and then a week later he has COVID. So I just feel
exactly.
like, especially if you're in the New York media, they're going to be dying for a story. I feel like they've been very supportive of Judge, though. I feel like everyone really wants this guy to work out.
The way they approached Judge was literally the same way they approached Jones. At first, it was like with scorn, apprehension. Then after they actually finally got to meet the dude, they're like, okay, let's see how it goes. And now it's developing into optimism. It's very much the same way that how they reacted to Daniel Jones. But as of right now, they're definitely like more in support of him than more in the way of tearing him down like they were in the beginning.
Yeah, I don't feel like they're trying to like the questions of how you got the job basically are gone.
Like I think we could all see like the way he speaks. In my opinion, can we agree that he probably got it just off of his interview, acing the interview or something, just the way like he is?
I would agree to that if they weren't already trying to see Matt Rule after that. I guess they did have an appointment with him, so they didn't want to just be rude or whatever. But before Carolina threw a ton of money at him, it definitely seemed like that was the apple of our eye. And I'm happy.
It seemed like that because that's the picture the media was painting, though. Like that's the picture the media was painting. The Giants weren't saying anything. In fact, if you looked at the Giants media outlet, the one guy they posted about, like, now I wouldn't say the most, but the most prominent interview that was featured on the Giants YouTube channel was actually Joe Judge's before they revealed him to be the head coach.
But they did have an interview scheduled.
Yeah, well, you're not gonna. I mean, yes, you're not gonna cancel the interview. But what I'm saying is, you're saying it looked like Matt Rule was the apple of our eye. That's according to the media. According to the Giants, it was very much more of like a consistent tone, which is supposed to be from the organization and whatnot. But I will say, Joe Judge's like they did coach profiles or something like that for each interview that they had, and his was like actually featured on the channel.
I feel like they like him. I feel like they got it right. I'm actually happy we got him instead of Matt Rule, but I do believe they wanted Matt Rule.
I will agree to disagree there because I don't think so. I think that's very much a media creation. Like a lot of stuff for the New York Giants is what the media paints, but not what actually the Giants want to do.
All right. Well, how do you feel about DeAndre Baker? Do you think?
Oh, he's gone.
I mean, hopefully, man. At this point, I would just like to just get him out of the building.
I'm so sad and disappointed with the whole DeAndre Baker situation because when I first found out, I immediately jumped to his defense because the thing that jumped into my mind was 2018 Janoris Jenkins when they found a dead body at his house, but it turned out it was basically a murder case. It turned out his brother was the one involved and Janoris had nothing to do with it. And I'm like, oh, well, that's crazier than a robbery and Janoris was innocent. Let's hold the horses on D Baker. And then basically for a good 2-3 month stretch, it looked like D Baker was actually innocent. I was like, yeah, man. Got to be on his side. Then the bribery thing came out, and I was like, "Yep, he definitely did it."
Yeah, you don't
did it. Exactly.
It doesn't make any sense.
And when that came out, I was so disappointed because I was like one of his most staunch defenders, and I was like, if he actually did it, man, it's not like sadness, bitterness, or anger. It's just such disappointment because he's such a young dude, and it's like you really did this. You really ended your own career. You really did this stupid thing. And now you put the Giants, it's kind of a secondary cause here because we're talking about somebody's life. But now you put the Giants in a really terrible situation as well.
Yeah, and especially when Sam Beal opted out, I don't know his situation, and I don't know. But I was definitely disappointed because I felt like this was a golden opportunity for him. He had the opportunity to prove Dave Gettleman right. He was obviously going to see the field a lot this year and give an opportunity. And when he opted out, that one upset me even more than the Nate Solder one.
I'm gonna tell you this right now, and like you said, I'm gonna repeat what you said. I don't know Sam Beal's situation. I'm just a regular guy out here sitting on my computer chair. It's not like I have connections or anything like that. But when Sam Beal opted out, I'd be lying to you if the first thought that popped into my head is, wow, this guy just doesn't want to play football anymore. Because you talk about the injuries his rookie year, the injury his second year, and when he did come in last year, the second year, he didn't seem to perform as good as that he painted himself to be, and also that we painted himself to be. We all thought he was going to be a great cornerback if given the chance. He got chances last year to show that. He didn't show it, and now he had basically the golden opportunity on a silver platter. You have the chance to go claim it. Of course, the injury problems are still there. Was he going to stay healthy? I have no idea. There's a good chance he probably would have gotten injured again because the guy hasn't gone into a season healthy yet in his career. But that just made me think to myself, does he want to play football anymore? Is he motivated to do this anymore? Or did, the injuries take such a toll on him mentally that he doesn't want to do it anymore? And it was a golden opportunity for him to kind of just slide out of the game. That's what came to mind with me. And I'll say, I don't know his situation, so it could be unfair for me to say that, but that definitely popped into my head.
That was the first thing I felt. I was like, maybe he showed up because he went to camp. I mean, he started doing this. I was wondering if the defense just didn't look the way he wanted it to. He just felt like he wasn't going to make the team even. Like, there is no connection between him and Joe Judge. He's going to play the depth chart.
Yeah, and then that's a good point. There's no connection with any of the coaching staff. Of course, you could make the same argument for like Corey Ballantyne, Julian Love, and whatnot. But Sam Beal looks at the media the same way we do as well. I'm pretty just like I said with the NFL players, they all know what's going on in the media. He for sure knows that people don't have faith in him staying healthy. He's for sure seeing articles that saying, oh, the next starting cornerback is going to be Julian Love or Corey Ballantyne, and his name is not really thrown out there. Like, that also will take a toll on you.
Well, also, all these articles are starting off with, hey, Sam Beal's the best fit, but who I like is.
Exactly, right?
To be in his camp because he just can't stay on the field. And like you said, when we finally got a glimpse of this guy that we were all hyping up, it was like,
it was very much just like a eh.
Yeah.
If you'd rate it, it would be like his performance was eh. It's okay.
Yeah. How do you feel? Well, now that we have all this money freed up, I see everybody wants to be like,
well, okay. Before you go further, what do you mean by all this money? We don't really have all that money freed up.
Well, there is money to be spent, even whatever the amount is. And now all of a sudden, everyone wants to sell their soul and try and get Clowney on a prove-it deal, or they want to get Logan Ryan for like a one-year deal. I feel like Logan Ryan would obviously make sense because we're so light on cornerback, but I do not want Javion Clowney on this team at any point, because the worst thing he could do is finally play 16 games, get double-digit sacks, and then he's kind of got the Giants bent over a barrel because now you have to pay him.
So I just pulled up over to cap.com. According to over the cap, this is actually more than I expected. I will say that. We have $22,545,000 available in cap space. But realistically speaking, we probably have $12,545,000 because they want to enter the season with that $10 million. It's always a good idea to enter the season with $10 million, but considering the pandemic situation right now, it's a better idea than ever to have some money to use during the season for any possible signs or any possible trades. So let's say that we have $12 million to use, unless Clowney is going to come on for all that $12 million, because that's what it's going to take to bring him on. And, God knows what his contract wants. He wants for his contract. I don't see it happening. And I've seen what you've seen. You know what I'm saying? I'm seeing the same things that you're seeing, that people want Clowney to come or they want a Logan Ryan. At this point, honestly, I don't even know if they're really going to help us on the defense that much. I don't know if Clowney is going to help us that much more than a Marcus Golden would help us on defense. Clowney is a force to have with for sure. If he can stay healthy for the whole season, he definitely will. But that's where it comes back in. I think he's probably, if he signs with any team, he's probably going to see around 10, maybe 12 games at most. And Clowney over a 12-game 12-game period is probably just as effective as Marcus Golden was last year over a 16-game period. So in that case, it's kind of like, do we even go for him? And then there's the whole situation about character-wise. Do you want a Jadeveon Clowney on your team? Kind of what he's shown this offseason. Logan Ryan, obviously, that's been there since the whole DeAndre Baker situation started. But we're good at slot corner. You know what I mean? I'm confident in either Julian Love or Darnay Holmes at slot corner. Unless Logan can pull out a magic trick out of his hat and play outside corner really well, then is there a point in signing him? What do you think? For both Clowney and Ryan.
Like I said with Clowney, worst case scenario is he does care for a one-year deal. He gets 10 sacks, plays 16 games, and then you end up paying this guy who that
sounds like the best case scenario. Play 16 games, 10 sacks.
Yeah, but then what do? Now you give him $100 million?
No, you let him walk in free agency. It's a one-year deal. But what you described is 100% the best case scenario. Like, if we pull up Jadeveon Clowney, when's the last time he played 16 games?
He's never had double-digit sacks. What I'm saying is, if he comes in here and dominates the entire fan base, and everyone's going to go, okay, he fits the defense perfect, we got to keep this guy around. We pay him to big money, and then he ends up being the player we know he is.
Here's the thing. I don't think the entire fan base is going to go that way, because the Giants fan base has always been more of a cautiously optimistic or cautiously pessimistic fan base. They're always very cautious with what they do in general. I don't think that we're the type of fan base that would just jump on a guy because he had a great season. The key example would be Marcus Golden last year. In fact, a lot of people were still very much unsure if they want to Golden back, despite him being one of the better pass rushers last year, but statistic-wise in the NFL. Like, that's your perfect example right now. Now, Clowney is definitely a bigger name and whatnot, but I don't think everybody's going to jump on him if he has, a 16-game season and whatnot. And people now are smarter than they were before in terms of, when it comes to cap space and whatnot with football. Part of the reason for that is because, they watch channel like mine, yours, The Entertainer, everybody that we talk about cap space a lot. This information is readily available now more than ever before. I think they'd understand if this guy is demanding like $100 million contract and we can't afford it because we got people to pay like Saquon next year, whose contract is going to come up. Daniel Jones eventually, Evan Ingram if he stays healthy, but definitely a guy like Jabril Peppers. Like, we have people on the team that we need to pay. I think they're definitely going to be understanding of it.
People are chomping at the bits to get him now, and he hasn't done anything for us. You're telling me this guy comes
They're chomping at the bits to have him for 1 year. I'm telling you right now, for 1 year.
Yes, but I'm saying if he balls out in that 1 year, you've backed yourself into a corner.
You haven't, though, because you could let him go. It's a 1-year deal. If he's demanding too much money, he walks. They have no obligation.
If we get one in the building and he performs, people are going to be dying to pay that.
I strongly disagree with that because I don't think people are that stupid. They, especially now with the information readily available, a lot of people now have a better understanding of cap than ever before. They're definitely going to be understanding of it because Giants fans, it's like what we said earlier with Joe Judge and Daniel Jones. They're not coming around to it. They're now more optimistic about these guys. They know this team is a young team. They know that these guys are going to need their contracts soon. That's in their head.
All right. Well, then we'll disagree on that one.
Hey, man, listen, I'm actually kind of having fun because usually when I go on everybody's, we're always agreeing. So it's actually kind of nice to be disagreeing for once. Hey,
man, I agree, man. Who on the coaching staff that we hired are you most excited to see other than Joe Judge?
Well, Joe Judge isn't actually the person I'm most excited to see. I'm most excited to see the combination. No, actually, just straight up Jason Garrett. I want to see if he can recapture his magic as an offensive coordinator. I know myself and other YouTubers, that have been bigging up Jason Garrett as a great offensive coordinator. We always point to what he did, back when he was that. But in the back of my mind, my subconscious is telling me, hey, man, it's been 10 years since he was actually an offensive coordinator. Does he still have it? Can he 10 years is a long time. The NFL has changed since then. Has he changed, in his mind as an offensive coordinator still then? Sure, the basics might still be there, but are the results going to be there? Because, you look back at like that 2007, 2008 Cowboys team that was second only, and I mean second only to the undefeated Patriots. And the reason they were second only to the undefeated Patriots is because the fact that the Patriots were undefeated. Like the duo of Tony Romo and T.O. that year, led by Jason Garrett, who was the offensive coordinator. And that was the 1 year he had free reign of everything, because after that was when they start putting more and more responsibility on him. That 1 year where he had free reign, Jesus Christ, the best offense in the NFL, right up there with Randy Moss and Tom Brady. But in the back of my mind, I'm waiting to see if he can do that again. I'm not expecting a T.O. Tony Romo season between Daniel Jones and Darius Slayton, obviously, but I'm expecting something a lot better than what we've seen in basically the past 4, 5, 6 years. The Giants' offense, of course, the past 4, 5, 6 years hasn't been great. I'm expecting something a lot better than that.
I mean, even the year where we made the playoffs, the offense wasn't great.
We couldn't score over 20 points entering the playoffs.
Yeah, it was Odell, here's a slant. Hopefully you bail us out.
That was literally a good point, because that's still to now Odell's best year in the NFL, because he was our most valuable player that year. We won. There was games in 2016 we won simply because Odell took the slant to the house.
The Ravens game and the Cowboys game are the ones that we strictly won because he scored all of our points on slant touchdowns.
Exactly. What about you? What coach are you looking forward to seeing?
I'm trying to remember the. I would love to see a defense finally again.
Maybe Coach Chaos does something with the defensive
Yeah,
line.
hopefully. I would love to see Lorenzo Carter finally show up and prove me wrong because I'm starting to fall off his bandwagon.
Okay, so I'm glad you say that because one of my most popular videos on the channel is me saying, Lorenzo Carter, this is your year, man. If you're gonna break out, you better do it now, or everybody's gonna hop off the train, and rightfully so. Because before I get into this, I'm gonna ask you this one thing. For me, and I guess you could take off Bob's comment from the screen now. It's been hanging there for a while. For me, when it comes to shout outs to Sajid, when it comes to an NFL player, a rookie coming in the league. I think unless they're like straight up a superstar right off the bat or a bust right off the bat, you can't judge them until 3 years into their career because the rookie year is the rookie year. Anything can happen. Sophomore year, there's always room for the sophomore slump or growth. And the third year is where everything grows out. So I'm like, this is Lorenzo's third year. This is where everything's going to smooth out. And based on what he's going to do this year, I think is what we're going to see for the rest of his career. So do you kind of agree with that 3 year type of thing, or do you have a different view?
Well, I agree with that as well. And also, we brought in your coach. Like, we've invested a lot clearly for you. So,
I mean, he's the inside linebacker coach now. So if Lorenzo's going to be working with him, this is a point I was going to bring up. I think if he's going to break out, he's going to have to be used at both inside and outside linebacker. And well, obviously, if he's going to be used at inside linebacker, that's where he's going to be working with his college coach. But also because, you talk about Patrick Graham and his fluidity with the defense. He's going to run a lot more 4-3 than I think Giants fans are expecting when it comes to the defense. I think we're going to see a lot of 4-3 sets, and Lorenzo's going to be out there as a 4-3 outside linebacker, which is essentially an inside linebacker. They do coverage jobs and whatnot, and he has the ability to do so. And then he's going to come down maybe on blitzes or maybe just in a 3-4 set. I think that's where he's going to break out if he's used in between both linebacking roles because he's not a pure pass rusher. He's not a Marcus Golden who's just strictly a pure pass rusher, or O'Shane Ximines, who has the potential to be strictly a pure pass rusher. Lorenzo can get to the quarterback at times, but not consistently. But then what he doesn't do consistently, he can cover pretty well for a linebacker his size as well.
Yeah, I would love for him to break out this. Out of Lorenzo Carter, BJ Hill, or Ximines, if I could tell you one of them will have a breakout year this year, who would you want it to be?
Out of those three? It would depend on how their respective groups are performing, I guess. Like if Marcus Golden and Kyler Fackrell are doing well, then I'll be like, all right, Lorenzo and Ximines can chill, and I say BJ. But if the defensive line is doing well and we're struggling sacks-wise, I'd say Lorenzo or O'Shane.
I'm not really too much worried about the sack numbers. I just hope that on third down we can finally get off the field because time of possession is going to be so important for us.
If we're going to want to run the ball into the ground, which is the direction it's going, then the defense needs to get off the field on third down.
Yeah. I felt like it would be third down, and I would be like, it got to a point where I'm expecting us to give up every third down on every drive.
Yo, it was literally that for basically the second half of last year, 2017, the entire year, and the first half of 2018, basically the past 3 years.
I'm praying for a pick or a fumble because I'm like, I know we ain't gonna get them off the field just by stopping them.
Exactly.
But I mean, when you draft towards the top of the draft every year, and it looks like obviously Baker was a crushing blow in the draft, but if Ximines or Dexter Lawrence, I think is gonna be a ball player. You got Saquon Barkley, you got Daniel Jones, who looks like he's gonna be another hit. We have some talent here, man. We should be able to.
We have so much young talent. It's crazy.
Yes.
It's just like it's. I said this. It's like it's up to the coaches now. Like this is where the coaches are going to earn their money, right? We have a lot of young talent. They just have to tap into it and use it. Now it's just up to the coaches, which is a hard thing to do because they ain't got enough time to do it.
I also saw in the Saquon interview, one thing that was thing that excited me was he was a big Pat Shurmur guy. Like he kept saying like, "Oh, this is the coaching staff that's going to turn around." I'm telling you guys, when this clicks, you all. So I thought he might be because he is such a leader. I don't know why I was, but maybe a little defensive when it first started. But he looks like he's been blown away by the prepared. I think he's seeing for the first time, like, oh, okay, this is why everyone.
I think Saquon realized maybe sometime last year, that Sherman was both going to get fired, and I think he realized why he was going to get fired. Because at some point, like Saquon's a really smart guy. At some point, he definitely realized, wow, Pat Sherman is rolling out the same plays every single week and not changing anything. And the offense is struggling, and he's not even making in-game adjustments. Like I'm sure at some point last year, Saquon realized that. And I know what you're talking about. I saw the interviews last year when Shermer came in, Saquon was saying what you just said he was saying. I think maybe now he realizes that maybe he'll chalk that up to, just a bit of, still being green to the NFL, maybe a little bit of naivety and whatnot. And like you said, now you're seeing a much more organized guy in Joe Judge. We still haven't seen him coach yet, which is a disclaimer I'm putting out for everybody. But a guy that just seems a lot more organized and put together. And he's not in charge of the offense or anything. He's going to take that overseeing supervisor type role. And the offensive coordinator is going to be the offensive coordinator and whatnot. I think Saquon's maybe seeing a completely different thing than what he's ever seen before. And he's taking it just as it goes, just taking it in stride. Because I feel like maybe he was a bit, like I said, maybe just a little green, and that's why he was so excited for Shermer.
And it's crazy to think how much we ended up hating Shermer at the end, because like you would think anyone we hired after McAdoo, you'd at least be like, well, at least.
Oh, nah, I don't know about you. I started hating Pat Shermer in the 2017 season when we got shut out by the Titans in 2018. That Titans game, it was like in the last half of the season. Admittedly, I was okay with Shermer until then. Titans game, I completely lost faith in him. And then I was like, all right, optimistic entering the season again, because I always am. And then by week 3, I already lost faith in Shermer again. Like Shermer just never proved to me that he was the guy. And I always sort of wanted him out there.
Yeah, I was never like crazy about him. I was just basically the only thing he had going for him is that he wasn't McAdoo. And I thought I would buy him maybe a little bit of leeway, but by halfway through the second season.
Yeah, like when did you lose faith? Is there a game or a play specifically that you said, yeah, you lost me? Because for me, it was that Titans game.
It was the Eagles game last year where we just stopped giving the ball to Saquon, and like he was killing them. And it was
first half, right?
What are we doing here, guys? Like he's trying to outthink the room, and he just ends up looking like an idiot. And then every press conference, there was like, I don't need you like kicking garbage cans or screaming or whatever, but like, be a little disappointed, man. Like, be a little like irate or something, man.
He was just like a cardboard up there, man, like a piece of cardboard.
If you don't care, why would I care?
Exactly. Like, I guarantee you, like, I'm not saying, like, just like I'm not saying that Judge is going to be kicking trash cans all over the place or something, but if we come off with embarrassing losses this year, I guarantee you're going to see some type of emotion from Joe Judge.
Some sort of speech to rally up the guys, like something to look forward toward next week, or like it would always be, well, we gotta look at the Cape. We were in the game at the end. Like he would always say that, like, oh, we had a chance to win. We lost. Like, be upset. Like I'm pissed right now. And when you go up there and you just kind of go ho hum, I guess next week we'll hopefully do better. And the use of the timeouts always was just
that was also, bro. That Titans game was like. And the Titans game, I'm gonna point out the games right now. Titans game, Vikings, the Eagles, like you said, and there's one game towards the end of the 2019 season that just highlight the height of incompetence of Pat Shermer as a coach. Mismanagement of timeouts, not adjusting, stopping, using Saquon, and basically just playing into the defense's hands. Those are the 4 things that always annoyed me about Pat Shermer. And like you said, timeouts was one of the big ones. Those 4 things in the games I just listed were like at their height. And he just continued to show it.
How bad of a head coach must you be to where if they give you a quarterback, the whole world tells you he's terrible, that if you get anything out of him, it'll be a steal. The kid almost wins Rookie of the Year, and we're all still going, this quarterback is the worst. Or this
coach
is the worst.
I will say this. Credit Pat Shermer definitely has something to do with Daniel Jones's rookie season, but also to take away, and Bad Dog was the first person that ever brought this point up. And when he brought it up, I really start to see it. He definitely also held Jones back in a way. Like Tampa Bay was when I think Jones was just being himself. He just let it all out. And, there was times during the season where you could almost see Pat Shermer reeling him in like a little bit, whether it was for good or bad. But he definitely had something to do with the way he performed in his rookie season.
And then when Shermer knew he had his job on the line week 17, I thought he might have been gone anyway, but if you go in and you beat the Eagles week 17 and the quarterback looks good, it would have at least made the job harder. And that they just didn't show up, I was like, okay, these guys don't even want you here.
I mean, for the Giants, honestly, their season ended in Washington when they lost the Chase Young Bowl, but hey, won the Andrew Thomas Bowl, and I'm happy with that.
It would have been so tough for me to be like, hey, I want Thomas over Young if we were at the number 2 spot.
But it made it so much easier that we were at number 4, and I was like, Young is basically gone. I'm fine with Thomas.
Yes, like it was a lot easier to swallow, but if we were at 2 and they took Thomas over Chase Young,
I'd be debating for sure.
I
Like,
would have been okay or whatever. But then week 1, snap 1, TJ runs around because Nate Solder's not there. We have no replacement. Daniel Jones fumbles. We'd all be sitting there going, how the hell didn't we take a tackle?
Doesn't that make you happy about the fact? Because after Chase Young was basically out of our hands, the conversation became offensive tackler Isaiah Simmons. And you cannot tell me, literally 70% of Giants fans wanted Simmons. Not that many people want to tackle. It was a very small portion of like the general fan base. How happy are you now that we took that tackle with the whole Nate Solder situation? Because if we had Simmons, it would have been what you just described. Week 1, TJ Watt comes around, Jones got smothered.
Well, also, one thing that scared me about the Simmons thing is like he's such a hybrid player and he's this jack of all trades. Well, Patrick Graham just had that in Mika Fitzpatrick and couldn't do anything with it. I'm not saying he's not going to succeed here, or Jabroni might not be a lot of that money backer this year, but
I mean, we kind of got Isaiah Simmons and Xavier McKinney.
That we want, because there's not enough pieces around him to where you can't let him be who he needs to be.
Yeah, I agree with that. A lot of people do forget Clemson had a great defense. Part of him, basically being allowed to do that is because the defense otherwise were doing their job. It's kind of like the magic of it is that the defense is still doing a good enough job that he can be placed everywhere else.
Yeah, like Nick Bosa's a fantastic pass rusher, don't get me wrong, but if whatever reason, let's say he signed with or we drafted him last year, he's not getting close to 20 sacks. We don't have the defensive line help or linebackers and secondary to let him get that.
Yeah, Nick Bosa will probably get around 8 or 9 sacks, yeah.
And I would love to have him here for those 8 or 9 sacks because I think that kid's ridiculously good, but I mean, scheme matters.
Mm-hmm. Not scheme, just talent on your roster matters.
Yeah, exactly. Like they can put him in positions to fully use him. I just felt like he'd be almost wasted here. And we'd still need a left tackle of the future.
Yeah. So definitely happy with just how much they invested in the offensive line this particular offseason in the draft and in free agency, with Cam Fleming and whatnot. And I mean, have you seen on Giants Twitter, Giants YouTube, also people talking about letting Kevin Zeitler go next year? What do you think about that? Because of me personally, I love Kevin Zeitler. He's by far our best offensive line player, probably one of the best players on the entire team. He's a guard that still is playing at a top 10, arguably top 5 at his position. But people Giants fans in particular, I don't think they realize just how good he is and just how great he is. And he's extremely underrated.
Well, the offensive line stinks. Why do we want to get rid of our best offensive lineman? Whenever I see that, I feel exactly the same. We're not going to get better by getting rid of our best guard. I love Will Hernandez. I hope Will Hernandez ends up being the best guard on the team, but
he's not close to Kevin Zeitler right now.
Why would we do that? It makes no sense.
It always just makes me think, man, people don't appreciate how good Kevin Zeitler really is.
Yeah, he missed some games last year, and he was getting the Giants. I feel like fans were kind of hyping him up because he was part of the Olivier Vernon trade, and we felt like that was maybe a little bit part of the Odell trade. So, and it's really hard for a guard to pop on your TV screen, especially when Saquon's hurt and he's not playing at his 100%.
And especially when you got the terrible coaching staff that was there last year.
Yes, absolutely. I think you don't get better by getting rid of your best players, and he's one of our best players.
Yeah, and Kevin Zeitler's not even a dude. Speaking of which, he's on an absolute steal of a deal. For somebody that's arguably top 5 of his position, we're paying him basically dirt cheap money. He's not a guy that's going to demand a lot anyway when his contract is up. We have him on contract for about 2 more years. Whenever that comes up, I don't expect Kevin Zeitler to be like, all right, I want to be the top paid tackle. He's a very pragmatic dude. He's going to demand some money, yes, but he's not going to be impossible to pay. And I think he has a good maybe 4 years left in his career. And of those 4 years, we have 2 of them on contract right now.
Yeah. I hope that Will Hernandez balls out this year. I hope he's better than he was even his rookie year. I expect a big year out of him. Now with some better offensive line coaching, and I am actually, the Nate Solder thing opting out stinks because he's our most he's done the most in the NFL. But I think it's really nice that we could just put Andrew Thomas at the left tackle spot to start his career. This is going to be our guy going forward. And if he's it's going to be extremely I don't think people are going to be getting on him week 1 if he gives up some sacks, especially when you're going to have such great defensive pass rushers to start the season. But if he plays even decent, I think we're all going to be like, wow, this kid is for real.
Before I get to that, shout out to Jersey Life in the chat, one of my more loyal subscribers, bro. Welcome in. And Mr. Mini Guy says he thinks he missed the part about DeAndre Baker bribery. What happened? Are you talking about like the story that was like last month when DeAndre Baker tried to bribe the victims to not speak? If you're talking about that, that's what happened. If you're
Yeah,
talking about if we really
they tried to be like, oh, see, these guys took a bribe, so they can't be trusted. It's like, wait, what? This makes no sense. Like everything you got. The one thing about the Baker thing that I thought it was all going to be a hoax was when basically the details came out. I'm like, this sounds like a Grand Theft Auto mission. Like
bro,
this
the whole DeAndre Baker story is straight out of like a badly written movie, bro. Like a B movie.
sounds like a Vice City story. Like, what are we doing here?
Exactly. But to your offensive line thing, I'm glad you brought that up. I've wanted Andrew Thomas to start at left tackle since we drafted him, since before we realized how long, quarantine and stuff was gonna last, and before Solder opted out. Was my camera out of focus? Focus camera. I was like, I've wanted him to start at left tackle just because I'm like, he's gonna be the left tackle anyway, and Solder's gonna be off the team sooner rather than later. Just put him there, let him get the experience. It doesn't matter. And I still do want him at left tackle now that Solder is gone because he's the best option, hands down, to be put at left tackle. You bring up a great point, though. He's not going to be coming out the gate, running. He's not going to be coming out here, with flying colors as he would have maybe if he had a regular, normal offseason. But you combine what he's had to dealt with, what the team has had to dealt with, what the coaches have had to dealt with, and the first 6 weeks, not just week 1 against the Steelers, the first 6 weeks of the Giants' schedule, the defensive lines and pass rushers that are going up against, he's not going to have a good time. And that's just something I feel like we're all going to need to remember, because he's not going to pancake everybody. There's going to be one of the games in the 6 weeks, as much as I hate to say it, where we probably lose because of the offensive line performance, and fingers are going to be pointed towards Andrew Thomas. But that's unavoidable just because of the situation that we're in. And I still think he has a great, career ahead of him, but it's going to be a rough start. And like you said, if he even just plays average in this 6 weeks, then he's going to be great for sure. Because just average with all the circumstances I described, you're doing something right.
Yeah, if we lose a game early on because basically Khalil Mack is just schooling Andrew Thomas, like, I won't be happy, but I definitely understand. Like, good luck, Rook. Like, this is is destroying all pro tackles. Like, why would I expect this guy to come right out of college and be able to stuff this guy up? But
like if I pull up the Giants 2020 season, week 1 Steelers, week 2 Bears, like you said, Khalil Mack, week 3 49ers, Nick Bosa, and the amazing defensive line. Week 4, you're going up against the best player in the NFL, in my opinion, in Aaron Donald and the Rams defensive line. Week 5 Cowboys, where the Giants just the past couple years struggle against the Cowboys defensive line. It's not like they're the greatest, but they're definitely good. And then week 6 Washington, a defensive line that's definitely on the come up, just like the 49ers were. And you could even throw week 7 in there with Fletcher Cox and the Eagles. Like, it's just a tough opening.
Well, also playing people in your division, they're going to know where their weak spots and tough spots are by that point. Like week 6, they're going to know, okay, if you run a stunt on him, this is like his weakness, or or if you bend really well, this is something he has problems with. And your division, like obviously,
and the stunts are definitely going to be a problem, because that's always a problem for new players, new offensive linemen.
Yeah, because a lot of, especially in the SEC, it's a lot of see ball, get ball, like smash mouth football. And that's why I'm really excited about the power run, man. This is what, like, ask any lineman, they want to run the ball. Like,
they prefer running than passing.
And I hope he is a wall in front of Saquon Barkley.
Shout out to Jersey Life, by the way. He says he just subscribed.
My man. Us Jersey boys in it together. Is there a matchup in the season that you're most worried about to kind of just see where we are at? Like,
most worried about?
Not most worried about, because like the Ravens game is like, even the most optimistic.
I think I kind of get what you're saying, but I'd probably say, I'll say this. Before, the game I was looking forward to the most was the Browns, for obvious reason, and the games I was worried about the most was Ravens, like you said. Now I'm just looking forward to every game, because I don't know how long the season is going to be, because everything's basically week to week. I don't really have a game that I'm looking forward to right now, but the one I'm worried about the most, honestly, is week 1 against the Steelers, because I don't know how we're going to come out. Like, I don't know if we're going to come out and we're going to look just terrible. because every team for the first month of football is going to look sloppy, but we're not just any team. We're like brand new on so many places in terms of players and coaching that we could come out and quite frankly, we could stink up the joint and look like the worst team in the league. I'm hoping that's not what happens, but for that reason, I'm so worried about week 1 against the Steelers and the fact that, it's a primetime game.
If we stink week 1, especially on primetime, obviously it'll bleed into the next week. It'll be a big story. But if they look bad against the Bears, then I would start to get a little worrisome. Not that
I mean, if they should be able to at least hold down the Bears offense because nobody knows what's happening with their quarterback situation. So that might very well be a defensive game, as weird as that sounds, because the Giants don't exactly have a great defense right now.
Yeah, if the defense struggles again, because we made Trubisky look like a baller last year, and if we can hold them to, even if whatever we start off 0-2, but at least we look comparable to the Bears, or if we're at least fighting into
if we didn't struggle, but we're 0-2, I think we're good.
Yes, but I just think with better coaching, I mean, I'm really expecting a big year. Like, I'm not expecting us to win the Super Bowl or anything, or NFC Championship, but I'm just excited to see in December. I just want us on the corner of the screen, the in the hunt button. That's all I want. I just want
you just want to be in the hunt until the very end.
Affect anybody.
I want to listen, man. My goal for the season, and like I said, my season prediction. And I'm gonna have to make a new one because of how much the time has changed. I was like 7-9. This is 100% a 7-9 team. At this point, I'm kind of with you. I'm like, I don't really care about the win-loss numbers anymore. I just want to be in the hunt until we're like the very end. If we're in the hunt until the very end, that's such a successful season to me. That is such a successful season if we're in the hunt to the very end.
If I get to watch some random game between two teams because it's a good, and they just show my Giants in the corner, hey, this team is not to be fucked with. Like,
this team with their next win can knock the Eagles out of the playoffs. I'll be like, yes, I'll take that.
Yes, and even if we lose that next week, I'll be devastated. I'll be broken, but at least it means something. Like, I'm so tired of starting off 1-8 and being like, well, this guy's a pass rusher, this guy's a wide receiver.
Listen, bro, can you imagine if we get a win week 1 against the Steelers? The last time we won week 1 was 2016. Now, 2016, we talked about earlier, didn't exactly turn out to be a great season, even though we made the playoffs. But if we win week 1 against the Steelers, the shockwaves that will be sent, my guy, oh my God.
Also, just to get the locker room to kind of look around and be like, okay, guys, like
we just beat the Steelers.
We're gonna win, and we did. Maybe this guy knows what he's talking about.
Yeah. Oh, man.
If you keep in there with that rah-rah mentality, like blue collar, yada, yada, but you guys just keep getting the brakes beat off of you, like guys are going to tune you out quickly.
If any coach, it doesn't even have to be the rah-rah mentality. If you just keep saying, like any coach, losing just does terrible things for any coach. It doesn't matter what kind of message they're spewing. They're going to lose faith in you eventually if all you're doing is losing.
Yeah, so I think week 1 is huge for us. I think it's definitely bigger for us than it is for Pittsburgh. And hopefully we show that.
Yeah, 100%. Like, Pittsburgh can recover. And a thing that I'm hoping that Pittsburgh does week 1 that they've done for basically the past 10 years is whenever they go up against competition that everybody knows is lower than them, they always play down to that competition.
Yeah.
And whenever they play down to the competition, the Steelers actually lose. Like, there's so many times in the past 10 years, I have friends that are Steeler fans that, like, legitimately are angry with their team because they lost to a team that they shouldn't have because the Steelers are playing down to them rather than going in and crushing them like they should.
Big Ben could hopefully bail us out. I don't understand how the Steelers still have so much confidence in him, especially after the severe arm surgery he had last year.
Bro, his age too?
Yes, like you look at that 04 draft class, like I think Philip Rivers in Indy was a mistake. I think staying with Big Ben in Pittsburgh is going to be a mistake. Maybe because I'm just such a and I just feel that class is done.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with you because I wouldn't say staying with Big Ben is a mistake. I would say just not getting a replacement for him is a mistake. Like, they didn't really make any – they, more than any other team, should have went out and got Cam or Jameis to be, the backup for Big Ben because I think he's going to go down this year. He's one – he's like one of the more injury-prone QBs. You factor in the age and then you factor in what we've been saying, not that many practices to prepare. His body is not going to be ready for NFL football come week 1.
Yeah, especially when he's a guy who's known to not have the greatest work ethic.
Exactly.
Just beat the Eagles already, for the love of God. Yes, I hope so. I think we might go 3-3, 4-2 in the division this year. That's what I'm expecting. That I would be disappointed if we had another 2-win season in the division. I don't want to just beat Washington anymore. We gotta start chipping away at the top 2 teams.
Like you said, I definitely think we're gonna get 2 wins against Washington. Redskins. I said Redskins. Washington football team fans might hate on me for this, but we own Washington no matter how bad we are. So I think we get 2 wins against them no matter what. And I do think they're legitimately a worse team than the Giants are all around. So I think we get two games against them. And then with the Eagles, I definitely think we should get 1 win against the Eagles. Couple reasons. I don't think Joe Judge is going to make the Pat Shurmur mistake and take Saquon out the game if he's killing them, because Saquon is an Eagle killer. When he's in there, he legitimately tears up that defense and makes them look like kindergartners on the field. So I think if he's out there for the entire game, we're going to win. And then in addition to that, Eagles lost a lot of depth on the defense this season, man. They lost a lot of depth at linebacker and linebacker and secondary, to be specific, more than ever. Like, you legitimately have guys that were flipping burgers playing the starting cornerback role now. And then with the offensive line, with Graham going down, and then before Graham went down with the injury, they lost depth on the offensive line as well. Eagles are very, very thin this year. They might actually end up being the 3rd team in the East, and not because the Giants are winning so much, because they might be losing more than the Giants do because of just how their team is right now.
The only thing that really worries me about the Washington games is Ron Rivera's new there. He's going to try and turn this whole thing around, and he's going to circle that Giants game of going, this is a team I've had success with in the past. This is a game where I can beat them. Because they're going to want to turn around their thing, too, as fast as possible. And that, for both of these franchises, that first game against each other is going to mean so much.
You could already see the Ron Rivera effect, too. With the Darius Guy situation, they didn't waste any time. The old Redskins would have wasted, probably until the season began before they took action. You definitely see the Ron Rivera effect. It happened almost immediately. They cut him.
I mean, if you look just a couple years back, the 49ers cut Reuben Foster for something like that, and then the Washington signed him the next day.
Yeah. So you're definitely seeing the effect there in terms of culture. We'll see if it translates on the field. But yeah, I mean, listen, even if they somehow turn it around in Washington, then it would come down, in my opinion, to a game between who got the better quarterback, and I think we still got that.
Yeah, I'm so happy we did not draft Dwayne Haskins like I wanted to. See, there's a reason why the guys get paid the big bucks and why I just sit around and tell them that they're idiots. Because I would have drafted us Montez Sweat, and I would have drafted us Dwayne Haskins.
You would have drafted Montez Sweat? Oh, nah.
I thought he
was with the heart problems, because I think the news about his heart problems came out before the draft. I don't know if it came out after.
Stud in Missouri.
He was indeed, but that's why he kind of dropped on draft boards a little bit, because it's just the heart problems. They were they don't know if he could actually keep up with it. And I mean, Montez is still on the Washington team, but he's being replaced by Chase Young, because Montez is not going to be in there for Deron Payne or Ryan Kerrigan. He's going to be a rotational player now.
He played pretty well last year.
That's what I'm saying, though. He played pretty well, but who is he going to start over? He's not starting over anybody else on that defensive line right now.
Well, like I said, glad I'm not the GM.
Yeah. Somebody I did want last year, though, got taken right before us, and that was Brian Burns, but I'm happy we got Lawrence.
I can't believe that Carolina didn't draft Isaiah Simmons when he was there. Once Kuechly retired, I said, okay, well, they got bailed out. They got another star linebacker, but Matt Rule thinks he knows what he's doing there. Good luck. I think once he signed Teddy Bridgewater all that money, I went, okay, this guy just thinks.
Yeah, so I was just about to run that up. Once Teddy Bridgewater got that $60 million contract, I was like, I don't know, Carolina, what are you doing?
I think Ron thinks he's gonna, or Matt Rule and Joe Brady think they're gonna outsmart everyone, and they're gonna learn quickly that talent wins.
Listen, if anything, I never wish a bad season on any team except the Eagles, Cowboys, and Washington, because they're our rivals. But I'm kind of wishing a bad season on Carolina, just to show that Giants made the right choice in Judge over Rule.
I hope so, man. I thought Judge did such a good job of hiring experienced coaches around him, being that he's never been a head coach. And instead of having his first job and being like, okay, this is the way I'm going to run it, this is the way we're going to do it, I'm going to hire these guys so I can kind of control them. He had a lot of former head coaches. So he's going to be going around like, hey, how did you handle this type of situation? Hey, what do you think about going into the week like this? And it's going to be hopefully work out for us a lot better than the last couple coaching staffs.
I love the way he constructed the coaching staff as well, man. Definitely, probably my favorite thing of the off season is seeing the coaching staff being built and how they went about doing it. Like that's all Judge. I don't think Gelman really had influence over that. I think Gelman was like, "Hey man, listen, you tell me who you want to bring in, and I'll bring them in." And he built a really good one on paper. I can't wait to see how they do on the field, but on paper, it's a really, really good coaching staff.
One thing that Gettleman does, though, that you still got to commend him for is like everyone knows he's in the hot seat. We got to perform this year. And he could have tried to draft Isaiah Simmons to kind of like draft a splash player to kind of like bail him out. But instead, he was like, this is what the team needs. This is what the team needs going forward. And I believe in my process of what we're doing here.
And you extend that to free agency as well. He could have signed big name players with the money. He signed effective contracts and effective players, and respect to him for that as well.
Yeah. I thought Bradbury, man. I thought when we signed him, I thought that was a steal. I was surprised we only got him. I wouldn't have minded a 4 or even more, a little bit of a longer deal for him. It hadn't worked out that well for Janoris. Obviously, towards the end, he was killing us, but I'm surprised he just didn't demand more money on the open market.
Bradbury, I feel like a lot of people don't know about him, and I won't say I'm surprised it seemed like a lot of teams didn't know about him either, because once again, we're just two guys talking about it, but these are guys that are getting paid the big bucks. But it just seemed like other teams didn't take notice of Bradbury and his talent and what he accomplished in Carolina for some reason. And that definitely played into why, he was just kind of there on the market. Like there was no other teams, there's no other reports saying that any other team was interested in him.
That's crazy to me. Like when you lock down Julio Jones, Michael Thomas, and Mike Evans,
and last year he played DeAndre Hopkins and locked up DeAndre Hopkins as well.
Yeah, I'm very excited for him. I thought that was a steal of a pick. The Blake
What do you think about the Ross Cockrell signing now that he's probably going to be the guy starting opposite of him?
I think it would be tough to put him out there. Well, I mean, it's so weird because
there is one thing. Ross did play opposite of him last year in Carolina. So they have the chemistry there.
Just the thing that like in our normal season, I'd be like, well, he's there too late. Like he joined late. But now with this season, I mean, they haven't even really started yet. So, I mean, this is going to work out beautifully for him.
Yeah, there's not even
like play with pressure. I mean, he's going to be all there trying to make plays because if he fails, it's going to be, well, why is that guy out there? Well, what are we doing here?
And with the Giants in 2017, when he was the second cornerback to Janoris Jenkins, he was okay. He was okay. He was average. He was nice. I think he had like 2 or 3 interceptions, which is better than okay for a cornerback. But his overall performance was okay. And I don't know how he performed last year in Carolina. Like I mentioned before we went live, I haven't really had time to look at any of that yet. But you know what? Let me pull it up. Ross Cockrell on Pro Football Focus.
Well, also just to be able to get a solid player this late in the process was pretty surprising.
Yeah, I didn't actually even know that he was still out there.
Yeah, I was like, okay, all right, I could deal with that. It's not like we made a big splash player to try and bail us out. Like we have somebody who's going to try and play in our system, and we think we have at least enough of a solid enough group here to where we didn't try and go out and get Logan Ryan or trade for a big name.
I'll tell you what, at the very least, I do expect them to be better than a Corey Ballantyne, and I expect them to be on par with, if not better than how Darnay Holmes or Julian Love performs in the slot. And I just got his stats pulled up here. Let me tell you what he did with the Giants in 2017. He played 16 games. He had 3 interceptions. In terms of his tackle numbers, 50 total tackles, 37 solo, 13 assisted, and 2 tackles for loss. With Carolina last year, now he did play only 14 games. He had 2 interceptions, so not even that much of a decrease. One of them went back for like 70 yards, and his tackle numbers were actually better. He had 62 tackles, 48 solo, 14 assisted, and 3 tackles for loss. So overall, he had a better season last year in Carolina than he did in 2017 with the Giants.
And like you said, he has the rapport with Bradbury. I wonder if Bradbury had something to do with this. Like, hey guys, I'm looking around here, we got to bring in my boy in here, man, because this kid can play.
That's a good point. He probably did have a good, go up to Judge or Gettleman or the defensive backs coach, and he's like, we need somebody to start. Somehow he's still out on the market, and we got good rapport. Bring him in. And like he knows that Cockrell has a connection with the Giants because he was once a Giant.
So, yeah, I'm very excited to see the secondary. The pass rush is obviously going to be the big worry, but I expect to see some big plays out of the secondary this year. even with with Beal and Baker out, because I'm excited for Julian Love. I'm really excited for Jabril Peppers. He looks like he wants to be a leader for this team going forward. Obviously, we have Bradbury, the big signee. McKinney is like kind of the player that we're all most excited to see because left tackle, we all love him and all, and you need him to perform, but they're not the most exciting thing to watch.
Yeah. Any last question to wrap up? I'm kind of coming short on my time here.
Oh, no problem, man. Thanks again for coming out.
No problem. But yeah, we'll take, any last questions.
We can kind of wrap it up. It seems like an hour is pretty a good amount.
For sure, man.
Thanks again for coming on. I hope to go on your channel or have you back on again in the future. And once again, guys, if you want to be part of the contest, I'm going to wrap this up. We're giving away a replica Giant Super Bowl ring.
You might want to take off the comment so that I could see it. When you brought it up, like the comment blocked it.
Got you right here, man. This is the championship box. It's in there. We'll wait to show you the ring a little bit later. You gotta keep the people waiting.
You got to build up. You got to build it up.
Yes, exactly. You just follow me on Twitter. Link is in the description. You're gonna make 3 picks a week. Really simple. Not against the spread. Nothing hard. The only rule is you can't pick the same teams 2 weeks in a row. Basically, what I want to stop is from everyone to send me the 3 picks every week of Seattle, Kansas City, and Baltimore. Like, you can pick those teams. That's great. But the next week, you just can't pick those 3 teams again. That's all.
Exactly.
But thanks again for coming out. Happy birthday to your mom.
Thank you for that.
Nice day for the rest of your enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you, man. Have a good one. Peace, guys.
And peace.